What's up, y'all? Thank you for tuning in for Destined for Greatness Radio. Hey, Happy New Year. Hey. How y'all doing this new year? It's a new look this year. How y'all like it? Hey. Hey. What's up, y'all? Thank y'all for tuning in. Happy New Year. Hey. Thank y'all for tuning in. I see y'all coming in. Hey, what's going on, sis? Yeah, we jamming this year. Hey. Hey. Happy New Year. It's a new look this year, y'all. How y'all like it? Yeah. What is going on? What is going on, y'all? Happy New Year. Welcome to Destined for Greatness podcast. I got a special one for y'all today. I have a very, very special guest today. Someone I care deeply about. Somebody that has made some major power moves. I'm talking about somebody that sometimes I talk to her mother, I don't even know what to talk about because we just talk to each other like, wow, we raised her. So, I have Kierra Lanice Wray on the show today. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. How do I pull that off? Destined for Greatness. So, right now, she has done so much work, and I'm so proud of her. So let me tell you about some of the things she's done. She's a young 27-year-old entrepreneur. She has been in esteemed magazines such as Vogue Online, on red carpets such as the Grammys, the BET Awards, campaigned for Color Girl Inc., Makeup Forever, Nike, and AJ Crimson Beauty, y'all. So without further ado, welcome my guest, Miss Kierra Lanice Wray. How you doing there, niece?
Hi.
Hi, how
Thank you
you
for
doing?
having me.
Oh,
I'm
thank you
good.
for
How are
coming
you?
on. Thank you for so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
No problem. Anything for you.
Thank you. So, like I tell everybody, nobody can introduce you like yourself. So, for those that do not know you, Kierra, please introduce yourself to the world.
So, my name is Kierra Lanice. I am a professional makeup artist, a beauty educator, and industry recognized beauty expert. Um, I specialize in beauty, editorial, red carpet, and male grooming. I've been all over the world and back. And I'm just a girl from Lansing, Michigan. So I'm super excited to be on here.
Lansing, stand up. We got another one. We got another one. That's why I brought her on. She destined for greatness. So, speaking of all those things and being around the world, tell us about some of the things that you do in your career.
So, as a makeup artist, currently everything is virtual. So, I've been teaching for about 6 different cosmetology schools nationwide. I teach like a leadership development program. I teach on behalf of brands such as NARS, MAC Cosmetics. I teach artistry cultivation, and I'm also a celebrity makeup artist. So, I'm actually be traveling to New York City in a couple of days. I'll be out there for about a week or so. So I'm super
Okay.
excited about that, working with one of my favorite celebrity clients. So this should be great.
Is everything under the wraps? You can't say who it is?
I don't think I can say because she has a new
Okay,
album
okay.
coming out. So yeah, I don't think I can
Okay, I
share.
get it. I get the business works. I get it. But can you speak on some of the people that you have worked with though?
So earlier this year, before the pandemic, or last year, Happy New Year, forgot. So at the beginning of 2020, I did some tour dates for Rhapsody, who is amazing. I've done
Yes.
male grooming for people like Scottie Pippen. I've worked with Michael Blackson. I've
You work
worked,
with Michael Blackson? Was he
yeah,
clowning?
absolutely.
He was clowning. I bet you he
He's the
was. Keep
same
going.
on stage as he is off stage. So
All right, keep
um,
going.
I've done events. I can't say all the names, but I've done events for the show Empire. I
What?
have a lot of clients that are executives for the Recording Academy and Atlantic Records. Um, so yeah, I have a little skin in the game. I've done quite a few great people.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Now you became one of those names. And
Thank
so
you.
let's dig right into your story, right? All of that is beautiful and I'm so proud of you for everything, but it all didn't come that easy. So
Right.
let's just start from the meat and potatoes. Let's start from the beginning. Give us a little bit of background about your coming up as a young lady, as a young girl. I mean, how was it for you?
So I like to tell people that me growing up was truly the testament of it takes a village. So my mom had me at 15. My dad turned 16 the day before I was born. And while the odds were seemingly against me, I've had literally a tribe of people that really just pitched in and helped to raise me. My parents did an excellent job. They had an amazing support system.
Yes.
And there was nothing I couldn't do, like I've always been poured into and esteemed, and people have always told me that I was destined for greatness. And so I
Hey.
had no choice but to be great. Like I didn't have room to fail. There was no room for failure because I had so many people that were supporting me, so many people that were depending on me. And while I could have been a statistic, I'm so thankful that that's not my story, like everything that I could have been, so to speak, that was complete the opposite. Like God did the polar opposite of what people thought would have happened beyond the circumstances. So yeah, I mean, grew up, had a pretty great childhood, had great experiences, pretty well rounded, very cultured. And high school, middle school, high school, I really fell in love with fashion. Fashion and beauty. So I was known as the fashion and beauty girl in high school. I was sewing, making my own clothes. I had a business in high school. I was tailoring.
So
Um,
hold on, let's slow down. Let's get on to that part because I can't let you go. You done jumped a couple of things. I'm going to reverse it back. Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about is when you were coming up. Being that your mother, Kafara, she was like you said, she was young and she had you, but you said you had a village, and you never. What I've always taken from it that you never seen the struggles necessary. You've seen the hardships, but you never seen what your mother went through.
right.
But I know because that's somebody very close to me, so I know. So when your mother made a transition to get into the church, right, and give her life to Christ, did that make a difference in the household? Did you see a shift in her as a parent? Did you see in her like her go getting? Did you see a difference in her once she made that decision to change?
Absolutely. I think, now, mind you, I was very young, right?
Mm,
But when it comes to, I think all of my family got saved around the same time.
they
And so
did.
my memories were always that of them being great, them always, I woke up Saturday mornings listening to Fred Hammond, having to clean the house, like
Yeah,
I
I
had.
was there. I remember.
Right. So I had very great memories. I can say that once we did get more involved in church, which I don't even know at what point, I can't pinpoint an age that I was when my mom got saved, but I do know that I became more involved in the church, and I grew up in church. So I don't have the memories of anything prior. It was just, hey, we go to church
So
on Sundays. My mom was my age, right? And
yeah.
the age that I am now, and was living her life and, making it
So
work,
that's
making it happen.
and that's why I asked. Do you think that being raised in the church made a difference in your decisions while you were in middle school and high school before you start your entrepreneurship? Do you think that having those core values help kind of jolt you that direction?
Absolutely. Because my life has been a lifestyle of faith. And so I if it wasn't for me being involved in church and even in my extracurricular activities, I don't think that I would have been as focused. I think I
Mm-hmm.
could have been very distracted. But there were just certain things that the enemy couldn't tempt me with because it just wasn't even on my radar. Like I like to say that I was almost sheltered from the world, not the real world, but just the world in general. Like I was sheltered from the appearance of sin because my village, my tribe was so great that I had a very strong group of believers, and all my friends were believers. Like I didn't know anything other than going to church and having the time of my life. Yeah. And so I never felt like I was missing out if I wasn't skipping school and smoking weed or anything. Like that was never a thing for me. So
and that's what's so beautiful about that is that's what I wanted you to touch base on. To young people that are out there making the decisions, to maybe do the more adult things at a younger age. I wanted you to give a little bit of advice to them about the decision. Do you think that you made the best decision by staying sober during your adolescent years?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I never, it's so funny. My mom and I had this great laugh not too long ago. She does this thing, and I think all Black moms do this, where they'll ask a question twice, but the second time they kind of squint, and they expect for that squint to squeeze the truth out of you.
Yeah, you must get more out you. Yeah.
And so I can't remember what we were watching or something, or what we were even talking about, but it was like, did you ever sneak somebody in the house when you were in high school or as a teen? And I'm like, no. And she was like, did you ever sneak somebody? Was that supposed to change my answer? No, not at all. I was such a goody girl. I didn't have those desires. I was never involved in the mess. And so my advice would be, you can live a set apart life and still be dope. You can still be popular. You can still be cool. Like everybody knew who I was. I was the most popular girl in school.
Yes, ma'am.
And my life looked completely different from everybody else. So while I wasn't going to all the parties, looking at it now, it's like the very few people that had something to say about, oh, she's missing out, or oh, she's a goody. It's like, look at their life, how it lined up in a, side by side to mine. So I didn't feel like I was missing out on certain things. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like I was missing out.
Awesome. Yeah. So you basically answered the question. Thank you for sharing. So now let's get into the part where you became an entrepreneur when you say you're in high school, correct?
Yeah. Well, actually my first business was in the 4th grade. My very first business was in the 4th grade.
What were you doing?
I was selling school supplies and candy and
oh, you've been a hustler. Okay, I see.
Absolutely. That was the 4th grade. So funny. That was my very first business. But in high school, it shifted gears because I was doing something that I loved. So my grandmother is a very well-known seamstress and designer. And I bought a sewing machine and I was like, yeah, I'm about this life. So I taught myself how to sew. This was back when skinny jeans became an actual thing. So I was taking people's boot cut jeans and turning them into skinnies. I was tailoring faculty, like their suits and hemming skirts and, altering football jerseys and basketball jerseys.
You doing all of that?
Yeah, I was making good money in high school.
Wow.
Yeah. So those are my initial businesses. And so I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit and have always just been like, look, I'm gonna make it happen. My parents didn't want me to work when I was in high school. Like I didn't get a job until my sophomore or junior year. And while most people, their first job might have been at a McDonald's or a coffee shop, my first job I was an office assistant at a school. And so people were getting their CNA license and I was like the office specialist is what it was called. But I was like an office assistant. So I was, doing data keeping or data processing and bookkeeping and things like that. So that was my first job.
And what I'm seeing and what I'm listening to right now is that God has been grooming you since you've been groomed. You're definitely destined for greatness. And I see what going to church young, staying out of trouble young can really do for somebody's life that is focused. I had a lot of talent. I had all the talent in the world at that age, but I was so distracted with the fun and the party to see you do the opposite. It's very humbling. And I appreciate young ladies like you that have made that sacrifice and are continuously being a good representation for the young Black sisters out here. And I appreciate you, niece.
Oh, thank you. It
No
definitely
problem.
wasn't easy, especially as you get older, because there is that
That's
peer
what I was gonna
pressure.
ask you next. Yes.
Yeah, like there's still that peer pressure, but when I looked at the things that I was afforded, the opportunities to do, versus going to a house party, it just didn't add up. I'm like, I'm chilling with celebrities. Like God, he legit had me in places that I didn't think that I deserved to be in.
Wow.
And people
Wow.
even I'm a millennial, so I grew up in the age of social media, right? Like I grew up with that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was making a name for myself with blogging and things like that. And I just had exposure to things that people in my high school weren't exposed to. I was so ahead of my time in certain
Yeah.
areas. And so when it came to, I remember, I want to say even in middle school, I got afforded an opportunity to do this ambassadorship program for young leaders, and they were going to send
Mm-hmm.
me to Australia, and so I wasn't able to do it because of financial reasons. It was thousands and thousands of dollars, but the fact that I had even gotten that offer was a huge deal. I went to all the orientations, and these are things that people that I went to school with, they had never even dreamed of. And
Yeah.
so from a young age, I've had even what I like to call a global vision. Like I've always felt like I could do this. Like I need to see the world. Lansing is a great place, but I'm not from here. Like I used to tell my parents, like, I'm from LA. And they're like, my mom's like, you're from the
I used to
Lansing
say
area.
yes.
That's LA.
Yeah, LA. Yeah, you from LA, all right.
But I've just always
uh
had a bigger mind, like my mind would just wander into places. And I'm like, yeah, like I remember being in high school and I was I'll never forget, I was in economics class, and this boy, we were talking about Dubai, right? So this boy, he's like, man, that place is only for rich people and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, man, I'm just dreaming. I'm like, I'm going to Dubai one day. I don't care what it takes. I'm going. And he's like, you just a black girl that go to Sexton. Like you from the
Say
West
what?
Side. Right. He's like, you're just a black girl from the West Side. Like that's not made for people like us. And I'm like, you don't know me. I'm going. Like I'm
Let's
going.
go. Thank you.
And I was legit in the 10th grade when that happened. And so in
Mm.
2019, I got a job and it was for a fashion film in Dubai. And
Say what?
I, yeah, I legit was friends with him on Facebook, and I messaged him right when I got off the plane. I'm like, hey, you might not even remember this moment, but
Yeah.
look, I told you God was gonna do it, and here I am. And he was just like, oh my goodness, I don't remember that, but wow, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, man, that just goes to show you that God will do literally anything. If you put your mind to it and if you trust God that he gave you that desire, he's going to provide. He's going to make it happen.
Period. Period.
Period.
That's so fact. So the question is, at what age did you leave home to pursue your dreams? So you're going through all the high school, you've been doing major things, You've already been hustling, getting your clientele up, going at home. You all. So when did you actually decide like this was actually going to be what I'm doing for life?
So I think I made that decision in high school, to be honest. Now, I didn't actually leave home. Like I didn't relocate until I turned 20, I believe. Um, yeah, I want to say 20. I graduated from cosmetology school on my 19th birthday. And that year, I think it was, yeah, that was September. So that coming February is when I relocated to Houston. And so I was 20 years old and I relocated to a city in a state that I had never even visited before.
Where
So
did you
that
go?
was, I went to Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, I went not necessarily to pursue my dreams, but actually to pivot. I moved to assist my aunt and uncle in planting a church. So I went for ministry.
Mm.
But everybody knew that the ultimate goal was to do makeup and like to be in beauty and fashion. And so it was just a byproduct. Like my career taking off while I was there was a byproduct of me just being obedient for a season and doing something that I had never even planned on doing in the first place.
So when you got down there, what were some of the things that you attacked right away dealing with your career? Because I know you were helping with the family, with the church. So that was keeping you really extremely busy because you guys were building a new church and so when you finally said it's time for me to focus on Kierra right now, I have my cosmetology license. I'm from home. I'm about to try to find a shop to work at. When did that happen?
So funny thing, I was working at a cosmetic counter in Lansing, And when I moved to Houston, they transferred me to that market. And so I was still working the same job, but in a completely larger market, right? Like I remember our counter goal at the Lansing store was like $147,000 for the year. And I go to a $2.7 million counter in Houston. So huge culture shock. And I was still doing that. I was working there full time while doing the church or, helping with the ministry. And I didn't completely start working at a salon until maybe 2 years later. So I want to say like about a year later. So about 2015-ish. 2014, 2015, I started working at a salon, and I actually didn't want to work there. I had no desire to work there. But my aunt, she got her hair done there. She's like, hey, my stylist wants you to work for her. And I'm like, how does she even know me? Like, I've never even talked to this woman. I've never met her, but she had been, looking at my social media, and she had seen my work, and she saw my portfolio.
Say that again. So young people, say that one more time. How did she hear about you?
Oh, she saw my portfolio and my work. Yeah, the track record.
Put your work out there. Have your stuff together. Be organized.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, she saw all those things, and she offered me a job. And I was just like, man, I'm not trying to do that. Like, okay, let's come to an agreement, because I've never wanted to be behind a chair every day, like all day, every day. I've never been that person. Like, I never wanted to be tied down and wanted to service a client or service clients back to back to back. I'm a little too free spirited for that. And so I was like, well, how about I come? Because she needs help. She was expanding from just having a salon suite to this massive salon, 5,000 square foot, and she was hiring a team. She wanted tons of employees, and she had this goal of being a premier salon in Houston. And I'm like, well, I can help put make your vision come to pass. I can help in the office, and I take clients every once in a while, but that is not what I want to do ultimately. And so it took a little while, but I finally did start doing, hair and makeup and stuff in the salon. And that was a really fun time.
That is amazing. So when you're down there and you start getting it going now, you're working, you're meeting people, you're working. When did you say, all right, I kind of want to take it professional? I don't know. I think I want to travel and do this. I think I want to do my own thing. I'm making good money at the shop right now, but I want to take it to another level. When did that happen?
So it kind of happened simultaneously, okay. I want to say 2015, the end of 2015, I got an offer. Someone else had reached out to me, a celebrity makeup artist, and she was like, hey, I've been seeing your work on Instagram. I saw your portfolio. You do amazing work. My name is such and such. I would like for you to assist me for the BET Awards this year, if you're available. Wow. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, that is massive, right? Like, that's a huge, huge deal. And I don't know. I kind of just went for it. Like I told my family, and they were kind of against it just because I hadn't planned for it. Now, a little backstory. One of my closest girlfriends, she's a model, and she's in LA, right? So she told me, she's like, girl, this was a year prior. She's like, girl, you need to come out here next year for the BET Awards. There's so much work for you. There's tons of people looking for makeup artists, and you just have to come. So fast forward, the time comes, and she calls me like 3 weeks beforehand. She's like, oh my gosh, girl, you got to come out here. And I'm like, I have not prepared for this. I don't have no money. Like, it just doesn't add up. And so I ended up getting this call because I kept thinking about it. And I got the call from the artist to assist. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's a sign. Like, maybe I should do it. And again, I didn't have any money. And I'm like, God, if I'm supposed to do it, make a way, right? So I legit, against my family's wishes, scrambled up the last money that I had in my account and bought a one-way flight to LA.
Made it happen.
Bought a one-way flight. And it was so funny because I had a connecting flight in Dallas. And what are the odds that the artist was on that same flight, and she was coming from New York? What? And so we're sitting next to each other on the plane, and we take a selfie. And I sent it to my family, like, I told you, like, God is setting this thing up. And the rest was history. Yeah, man. So it still happened. I went back, and that's been, I've been doing the BET Awards for the last, I'll say since 2015. That was my first year. I've done it every year
Wow.
since then.
So
And
you've been
so,
consistent the last 5 years doing it.
yeah, yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's big.
Thank you.
Consistency is everything. You're building that resume. Ooh, girl, they better watch out for you. I'm telling you.
Thank you. It's definitely been a journey, but I still worked despite that, like people see the highs, but there's still lows, like I
Mm-hmm.
remember, I want to say it was 2018 was a really rough year. And I picked up a side job, picked up a side job at a gas station. And I legit went from working, having a major win that weekend at the BET Awards that year, and got back in, again, major success. I vlogged about it. I'm talking all about it, like had a great time. I'm all on the red carpet doing the whole thing, and got back in. My flight dropped in at midnight, and at 5 a.m. clocked into a gas station. So
Wow.
there has been
So
definitely,
so how do
yeah,
you so if somebody right now is in that position right now, they want to do this, right? They're like, all right, I'm gonna pursue this thing. I'm gonna take off, I'm gonna try to do it. How do you feel about them still working their job? Because you still had a job. How do you feel about people pursuing their dreams and working a 9 to 5 to
do
maintain?
it. Do it until God tells you not to. um Even now, like, I mean, I do makeup full time, but I have a part-time job with a PR agency, so it's still in the same field, and they
Mm-hmm.
still intersect. But until you are making the money, like, there's a fine line between taking a leap of faith and being like flat out ridiculous, right? So
Mm-hmm.
unless you have been completely instructed by God to completely quit your job, I mean, you still got bills, right? so use
Facts.
wisdom.
Yeah, because
Use
the reason
wisdom in
why
those
the reason
things.
why I bring that up is because some people, some young people get clowned for working certain jobs. Oh man, you working at the gas station. Oh man, you need to get this money. You working here. But at the same time, I'm like, yo, that's terrible advice. You know what I'm saying? What is it? But the advice to give him is, what is your true passion? What is your
Yeah,
true desire? And whatever you're working this 9 to 5 for, invest in that. So you don't have to ask nobody. So when they see something pop off, they're gonna think it was magic and be like, nah, this is hard work. You just didn't see it. Y'all was laughing at me
absolutely.
when I was doing this, but now look.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to go on that. But continue on, my sister. You talk about when you were struggling at 18.
Yeah, so it was crazy because the original reason that I had got that job at the gas station, I was so embarrassed because the outfit was ridiculous, the little mascot was ridiculous. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but it was such a humbling experience. But the reason that I had initially got that job was because I had a new business venture. And I was like,
See?
man, okay, so it's going to cost X amount of dollars to start the business. Where can I get this extra money from? So I've always had multiple jobs, multiple streams of income. And so I got this job that was literally walking distance from my house in Texas. And I started working there from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. And
Wow.
I was working for the PR agency back then as well. And so I was juggling the two of those things. And I was like, man, okay, I'm going to quit. Like, I got what I needed. I saved up enough money to start my business. And God was like, nope, not yet. I'm
Yep.
like, but I got the BET Awards next month. Like, I don't need to be. And he's like, nope, not yet. And so I stayed. And, now thinking about how God needed that, like he needed me to stay there, not just to, minister to the people that I was able to come in contact with, that I worked with, but also
Yes.
to humble me because I hated this job. I'm over here counting cigarettes. I'm doing things that this is completely, and I'm coming with makeup on, and they're like, "Who is this girl?"
It was a
But yeah,
truly
I
humbling
really needed that.
experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
All
it
right,
was it was
so
good.
all right, so around when did things start looking up for you though? Like when you start being like you start seeing a little bit of money come in, you start like your name start buzzing a little bit. Around when did that start happening?
Um, Probably that next season. And again, the thing with
Okay.
being an artist and being an entrepreneur is there's always going to be highs and lows. Like
Mm-hmm.
even now, right? Like I'm the best I've ever been. I'm at the highest of that I've ever been, but I still have things that I'm dealing with. Like we're in the middle of a pandemic. And so
Correct.
there's still on the backside of the greatness, there's still times where I'm like, man, I gotta make something shake,
Flat
Um,
out.
But it's been a constant journey. Like for every setback, there's also been a way that God has provided. There's also been a way that he put my name in rooms that I had no idea, rooms that I'd never even set foot in. There has been literally for every single thing, it's been, how the word says we go from faith to faith and glory. It's literally
Yes.
been exactly that. So it's been a great experience. I want to say really around 2015, 2016 was when I started getting a little bit more traction, a little more publicity. The last year, to be honest, is when I've done the most. And even this year, even despite the pandemic, I've gotten even some of the biggest contracts and done some of the highest things in my career. So,
But when you say that, I mean, it didn't come without hard work though. It didn't just
right.
fall in your lap. Like, so you're still being active during the
Ab-
pandemic. So I
Absolutely.
seen one of the things that I seen that you had virtual classes. So if
Yes.
you could, yeah. So I said you got into that during the pandemic.
Definitely. So I've always been an educator, right? So I teach, like I said, for different cosmetology schools and things like that. And I also love personal shopping. And so at the start of the pandemic, one of my clients, Mara Chance, who is absolutely phenomenal. She's the creative director for Seven Sun Productions, which is Yara
Okay.
Shahidi's company. And so Mara, I've done her red carpet work and things like that. She's so great. And the pandemic hit and she's like, Kierra, I can't fly you out. Like, I need to learn how to do my makeup. And I'm like, yeah, well, just FaceTime me. I'll show you what to do. She was like, well, I just want you to make me a whole new kit. Like, just buy everything. This is my budget.
Uh
Tell me
oh.
what I need. You know me, like I can do her makeup with my eyes closed. Right. And so she's like, whatever it is that I need, get it for me and show me how to use it. And I did exactly that. I put together a little proposal. I had all the products and I had this all like a digital compilation of all the things. And we did a FaceTime session. And she was like, you need to offer this as a service. And I'm like,
Wow.
but I do this all the time. I do it for free. And she's like, no, but people need what you carry. You need to offer this as a service. And so if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be doing it because her and her following, she's verified and all this stuff. She has all these celebrity followers. And she's like, y'all, I love Kierra. She's my makeup artist. Look what she did. So if you need, and she really catapulted
Put you
me in
out
that
there for you.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And man, it has kept me so busy. And again, it's something that I love doing. And so I'm like, I would do this for free, which is why God has been constantly blessing me with more and more people. And it's been even interesting to see, even with like my magazine features, some of these people, like I'll get a random email or a random booking. And then I ask, in the questionnaire, like, well, how'd you find out about me and my artistry? And just to hear the responses like, oh, I saw you on Twitter, or, oh, I read a magazine article and that you
Yeah.
were in, or, oh, my sister, one girl, she said, my sister follows you on social media, but I'm across the country. And I'm like, so mind blown with how many people are finding me doing this.
Yeah, so let's get back. So so let's go. We're still in Texas on your story. We hadn't left. So
Right.
things were popping off. Then you
Mhm.
said you had some hard knocks. Then I know right now that you're back in Michigan.
Right.
So what made you make that transition and when did you make that transition to come back to your hometown?
So it's so funny. I made made the decision a year before it actually happened. Today makes 1 year that I've been I've
One
been
year
back in
today?
Lansing today.
And we're doing a podcast. Whoa, wow, happy anniversary.
Right. And it's so funny because most people don't even know that I'm even in Lansing. So that's another thing.
So,
My
yeah.
friends call me Carmen San Diego because nobody ever knows where I'm at because I travel so much. But yeah, this is like one of my first announcements. I am in Lansing and I have been for
Hey,
a whole year.
and you was like, why would you do that to me?
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Um, but yeah, so I made the decision about a year prior. Like I had been thinking about it,
hmm
my aunt had passed away and that was a really difficult time for me and the family. And I just wanted to, I wanted to come back home, like I had been traveling, I had been constantly moving and shaking. I really hadn't grieved. My family's mantra is leaders lead in every situation. And so it got to a point where I was leading, but I was empty. And
hmm
when I noticed that, I was like, yeah, I had already kind of been, Google searching like
Yeah.
houses and
Thinking
apartments.
about it, looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. And I told my parents, and they're like, "What? Why?" But when I explained to them, they're like, "Okay, that makes sense." And I'm like, I've reached a place in my career where I'm really transient. Like I was traveling literally every month between LA and New York, and so. And that had been for the last 2.5 years. So even when it came to building relationships, I didn't have a whole lot of friends in Houston because I was always busy and they're inviting me to stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm out of town, or, oh, I can't do it. Or, so that kind of ruined some of the relationships because they felt like I was never available. Plus my boyfriend is here in Lansing. My family.
I was going to ask you about that. Hold on. You're going to jump the gun now. Go ahead, though. Keep going.
Yeah, so it's like it just made sense. And I'm like, I've reached a place in my career where I can literally live anywhere and still survive and still thrive. And so even though it was definitely scary, and I didn't tell very many people because I know for a lot of people they will look at it as a setback. It was perfect timing even when I left because the pandemic hit shortly after. And I know that even mentally, I wouldn't have been able to mentally sustain myself. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do that in Houston. So it was perfect timing in all of it.
Oh, that is amazing. So being back home, like you said, your hustle never stopped. Now you're virtually doing it. How can people purchase a virtual session with you? Give a little information about that.
Yeah, so all of my services are available on my website, www.kierralanice.com. There you can see my service menu, you can see my portfolio, you can see my social feed and things like that. I have various services that I offer, not just virtual. I do weddings, I do photo shoots and things like that. But my virtual services, I have virtual consultations. So you just like, hey, I need some expert advice. They all come with a digital recap. So I'll give you product recommendations with the prices and, tips and tricks on how to use them. I also do the personal shopping. We can do a one-on-one or have a bundle package called a beauty routine facelift, where we start with the consultation. I do the personal shopping based off of your budget, your needs, and your beauty goals. I send everything directly to you using my I get the products using my discounts and stuff that I have as a pro artist, and then we have the one-on-one session, and I teach you step by step on how to use everything. So those are some of my services, and yeah, they're all available, like I said, on my website, kierralanice.com.
That is amazing. So
thank you.
So now you're back home, you're making things happen. Now I hear that you got a boyfriend. Now it's time to get into that. Now I got to hear about this young man. You know what I'm saying? So how's it doing? How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. So Marcus is not new.
To me, I've been.
I know. So the thing is, Marcus and I actually started dating probably 2015, 2016. Wow, so it's been a while. Like, we were really good friends all through high school. He didn't start to pursue me until I had already moved to Texas, and it was like, but we're friends. Like, is this going to be a thing? What is this kind of thing? So we don't even have a real anniversary because it happened.
You don't know when it happened. Okay.
Yeah, it was just like, we're a thing, And so yeah, it's going great. We were long distance for all those years. I didn't even tell anybody, like, social media or anything until like probably year 2 or 3. And even with that, I posted a picture. I was like, Man Crush Monday or happy birthday post, you decide. so very condescending.
It was a leading question into how has it been that you are a traveler, having a boyfriend and you travel so much. How is that working out for you?
I mean, like I said, we were long distance for 4.5, maybe 5 years. And so January was when I moved, that's when we were finally in the same city. So it made it a little easier because I travel a lot anyways. And so there will be times where we would meet up in a city, like, oh, hey, I have to work in Chicago next week. And he's like, oh, I can easily come out there. Or, cool. We would see each other quite often. There were a couple of stretches where we went like 6 or 7 months without seeing each other, but because we had such a solid friendship, it didn't make it as gruesome, because he's literally like my best friend.
Well, shout out to him. What I'm saying? Take care of her. Yes. So now you're back home. How is the family aspect? How is your relationship brewing with your family that's back at home? Are they happy to see you? Are they excited? How was life?
Absolutely.
How was life back since you've actually made the transition back to your hometown?
It's been great because my family hasn't had access to me, right? Like I've always been
Mm-hmm.
traveling. Even when I would come home to visit, I was hustling, right? Like I'm coming home, hey, I make my announcement, and it got to a point after a few years that I had to kind of trick the system. So I would put on social media, hey guys, I'm coming home from the 30th, or from the 25th through the 30th, when really I would come in on the 22nd, but I had to give time to spend time with my family, because
Yeah.
it got to a point where I was working so much that people didn't get to see me. And so moving back home was great. I spent the first half of the year, aside from the pandemic, those first 3 months that after, or that the pandemic had started, I spent at home with my parents. And my mom, she wanted me to come home anyways. When I moved back, she's like, I don't want you to get a place yet. I want you to just come home and
Mm-hmm.
rest, come home and heal, come home, be loved on. And this was again before the pandemic, and so it was so perfect. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Just being able to reestablish those relationships and be with my family. And again, people haven't even realized that I've been in Lansing for a whole year until now, right? And so,
Yeah.
I've been in spending this time with my parents, with my sisters. My younger sister has two children, and I'm like, I have nephews. Oh my gosh, I get to spend time and love on them. And
Yes.
it's
Very
been so
important.
great because I never wanted them to feel like they were getting the short end of the stick. And now it's like, wow, I can devote my time as needed. It's not like, oh, she's only going to be here a few hours, let's figure something out.
Okay. So now you're home. So now I have to ask you, what advice can you give to a young lady that is in Lansing, Michigan, that may have followed your career and seen the things, the power moves you've made, right? What's some advice and what steps, if they want to get into exactly what you're getting into, they want to get into professional beauty and cosmetology and all of that, right? What steps did you take to achieve your goals? Because sometimes we might think things are simple, but to some other people, they just don't have those answers. They could change their life. So, what are some of the steps that you and advice you would give?
So the first thing that I would say is that know that it's achievable. Know that no dream is too far fetched. No
Mm-hmm.
matter how ridiculous it sounds, no matter how outrageous it may be, like know that it is attainable.
Mm-hmm.
Even being from a small city, like I always tell people that even if they've seen the journey, that I just see I spoiled my mom definitely spoiled me with breakfast in bed. But even when it comes to being from a small city, people they see my social media posts or they see my website and they're like, oh my gosh, she moved to Houston and her career took off. I need to leave because there's nothing in Lansing. I've always had a heart for Lansing, right? And so I always say that in order for you to go global, you have to start local. So what people didn't see is that when I moved to Houston, the success that I had was a direct result of what I was doing when I was still living in Lansing. So before I
Mm-hmm.
moved, I was doing everybody's hair. I was doing everybody's makeup. I was the, premier stylist, if you will, at that time. And so when I moved to Houston, I had to put those same habits and practices into place, just in a larger city, a larger
Yes.
platform. And so I would say start where you're at. Take advantage of what you have in front of you, the people that you already have supporting you, the
Mm-hmm.
following that you already have, the access that you have. Start there, master that, decide exactly what it is that you want to do, and hone in, like never lose sight of that. No matter where you're at in your journey, never lose sight of what your vision is, and always refer back to that. Even when you have moments where you don't want to do it, even when you have moments where you're heartbroken or whatever have you, remember your why and press through it.
And press through it. Hey, that is a beautiful way to wrap this thing up. So I have to ask you, is there anything that you would like else that you would like to share since we're on this Destined for Greatness platform and you have everyone out there listening? Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Um, yeah, I would just say, stay encouraged and know that you have a purpose. Know that you were designed by God to do something great. Like you were destined for greatness. And so no matter
Hey.
what, right. So no matter what comes your way, no matter what the circumstances are presently, keep going, lean into the possibility of big, lean into the possibility of the magnificent happening. Because if God starts a thing, he's going to complete it, and he doesn't give you those desires for no reason. So keep moving forward and network across, take advantage of social media, love on people. That's a big thing. Love on people, no matter where you're at in your journey, because you just never know. So even the people that have the desire to work with celebrities, treat every client that you have now like they're a celebrity, and God will make that match happen for you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we're going to jam out, though. That's what we're going to do, Kierra. You hear me? We about to jam out before we ride out. Thank you so much for tuning in, y'all. We Destined for Greatness. Thank you for having the time out of your busy schedule to make it for me. Hey, Happy New Year, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hey, Kierra, love you. I'm gonna talk to you in the back, all right? All right.
So if you really want true love, let this be your prayer to God. I'll purify the deepest part of me. I need to see.
Hey, Happy New Year. It's a new wave. Tune in tomorrow. A very, very special guest tomorrow coming on. Hey, shout out to Jay Norris. We talking about stocks, bonds, investment. Yeah, I see you out here, Coach. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, my sister Kafara's in the building. I see you out here. Oh yeah, Big Brother Rodney was in the building. What up, Marissa? Oh, we gotta talk. I gotta have you on here. Thank everybody for tuning in. We out.